How's it going, my friends? Welcome back to the channel. So today, unfortunately, no RoboTaxi report. If you've been following along, then you know my Model 3 is down. Mew needs a new battery. The last couple of weeks have been rough. Right after that really awesome run with 2.4 on the gauntlet, I went to charge and I found a nice fat bolt in my tire. At the same time, I got a message on my screen that was a little worrisome. It said basically maximum range or charging may be reduced. Okay to drive, schedule service soon. So I thought, oh, that's great. When it rains, it pours. Well, pun intended there, because I pulled off that tire in the pouring rain. I got it swapped. I got it back onto Mew, and we drove down to the supercharging station to get filled up. And that's when the message changed to maximum charging power reduced. Okay to drive, schedule service. So the language changed a bit. It wasn't schedule service soon, it was schedule service, like now. And I went from seeing it at the 30 kilowatts when I first plugged in, dropped down to about 12. And by the time I got to about 25%, where it kind of stagnated, I was down to about 2 kilowatts of charging juice. So I decided to go home, schedule service, and see what Tesla had to say. Tesla service got back to me pretty quickly, letting me know that I did in fact need a new battery. Although I realized that I was likely going to need a new battery sooner than most would, I still wasn't quite ready to hear that day, so that was unfortunate. But regardless of that, I drove Mew in the next morning and got situated, and we found out that my 50 kilowatt hour battery for Mew was going to be $11,000 plus labor and everything. So the total estimate's right around $13,000 to get done, and it's going to take 2 to 3 weeks for it to get done. About a week or so has already passed, so hopefully just another 2 weeks, one of which I'm going to be out of town working anyway. And in the meantime, while I'm out of town, I'm going to have some more of the comparison videos running for you guys. That way the channel's got something entertaining to keep it going, even though Mew is down waiting a nice heart transplant, as I've called it. I'm going to try to keep content coming out. It's probably going to be mostly the comparison stuff. I might have enough to throw together a little customer reactions video. I'm not sure. I think I have a little bit of footage from night, and worst case, that can make a fun, short customer reactions video. But best believe as soon as Mew is back up and running with a fresh battery, we're going to be hitting the road and getting all the content we can. Now, in reaction to this initial news, I saw a lot of comments where people mostly were supportive. Really appreciate that. Mew does too. All the love and best wishes. I feel like he's a friend in the hospital right now. At least we know we have a heart on the way. So, not to make light of the actual medical issues that people go through. But I've seen other comments centered around, how did this happen? I mean, why did my battery go out at around 140,000 miles, or around 200 or over 220,000 kilometers? And it's really quite simple when you realize the density that I drive. So I took delivery of Mew in March of 2020 and worked like crazy all through the pandemic. That's how we got our Model Y. We were very fortunate that demand for Uber and Lyft was through the roof. And I was making on average $70 to $80 an hour. I mean, several $1,000s a week. For rideshare, 2020 was amazing, regardless of all the problems that were going on. So we cleared about 70,000 miles in that first year. Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, over 100,000 kilometers in 1 year. And then the subsequent year, almost, not quite as much, around 55 or 60,000 miles, or about 100,000 kilometers. And in the last 6 months, of course, with my new job, I have not been able to do anywhere near as much driving. But in all of that time, in the 2.5 years, I have solely supercharged. DC fast charging, plugging into stations that average over 200 kilowatts of charging juice going into the vehicle. This is where it's important to realize why my little 50 kilowatt hour battery didn't last. I've come to put this in the form of an analogy that I'm going to put out first that might help it make sense. Imagine you or someone you know is going to the gym or going on a hard run, and you're working out for a couple hours or running for a couple hours, and you're gassed. Like, you can barely move, you're gasping, you can't breathe. You're hungry, you're tired, everything. So the normal person would go home and rest. And then, of course, overnight, sleep 8 to 10 hours, have some breakfast, go out the next day, train again, and you can get stronger and whatever. Now, imagine if instead of those 8 to 10 hours of rest, you had 30 minutes to catch your breath, chalk down a bunch of caffeine, and get back in the gym or on that run and expect to do that for 2.5 years. I supercharged 2 to 3, sometimes 4 times a day for 2.5 years. That is a lot of juice going into that battery, and that is a lot of cycles, and especially in a short range, or not really short range vehicle, but the standard range Model 3, since I have the 50 kilowatt hour pack and I only got, real world around 200 miles or like, I don't know, 350 or so kilometers per charge, it meant that I charged a lot more than the average Tesla. The dual motor long ranges that, like our Model Y, I've been using it for work, and I mean, charge once in the day to get like the same amount of work done that I do with Mew. And that's just the effect of, having a long range Model Y or 3 versus a standard range. It's just, it is what it is. So it's another way to think about it. If you're trying to travel across the country, my Model 3 Mew is going to have to stop like almost twice as often and charge twice as often. So not only am I charging 2 to 3 times a day, but if I even just had a long range, a dual motor Model 3, I wouldn't have this issue, or I wouldn't be here yet. Same case if I had the iron phosphate battery. If I had the LFP pack, I probably wouldn't be in this issue either. I would have several thousand more miles, probably another 100,000 more before I would have to worry about battery issues to this caliber. Most people, 80 plus, probably closer to 90% of people charge at home. They might go to a supercharger every now and then to, zip up and then plug in at home. And Tesla service even told me that just AC charging or charging at home on AC current as a nightly thing, a more regular thing, does wonders for the battery health. I mean, force feeding high energy exchange through DC fast charging constantly as the only form of charging, this was going to happen. This is a very long way of trying to make it very clear that this is not normal. I mean, I haven't seen numbers to corroborate this. Corroborate, so that was a weird way to say that. So this is kind of me just speculating a bit, but I'd be pretty confident in saying that Mew, my Model 3, is probably the heaviest driven Model 3 on the planet, if you consider how much distance and how short a time and how much charging. That's why I'm also very confident in saying that I'm one of the most experienced beta testers, because I drive that much. It's not a brag, it's just a fact that I drive 1,000% more than the average beta tester or even average person. And with that, on only supercharging, yeah, the battery's, it's gonna die, man. That's physics. There's no getting around that. So it isn't indicative of some bigger issue or some real big problem with my battery. And hopefully my battery can go through second stage life now and become part of stationary storage before it goes to then get recycled. I want to talk to Tesla and see if maybe they can use my battery for testing, like scientific purposes, kind of like an organ donor, since it's the first case of a Tesla used so much for a transportation as a service, a RoboTaxi-esque model, that they now have a battery pack that's been through it and died from it and can analyze it. And the new battery pack I'm getting, although it's still nickel cadmium 2170 form factor, it's still going to be an improvement on my old one. So I'm kind of realistically expecting with the same level of usage that I'll probably get about 170,000 or around 300,000 kilometers, 170,000 miles out of it. And hopefully I'll be in a situation at some point in that time that I can plug in at home overnight. So at least one of the charging cycles will be AC overnight instead of it all being DC fast charging. Okay, sorry, that was a lot to say, but it's to really highlight the point that this is not normal. This is extreme, and I knew it. This isn't a surprise to me. I knew it was a matter of time, and that sooner than later it was going to happen. And ironically enough, it would happen not too long after I get out of warranty. When you think about this, a little factor that'll also help everyone watching. My Model 3 has netted me, we'll say at a modest number, about $50,000 a year with Uber and Lyft. That's modest. It's actually more than that, but we're just going to use a modest number for comparison. So over the 2.5 years, it's been 150,000, we'll call it, that I've earned with the vehicle. And sure, not all that money stays in my pocket. Some of that goes, well, a good chunk of that goes to charging. Well, not even a good chunk of that compared to gas. But anyway, a chunk of that goes to charging, bills, rent, whatever. But when you factor in, so the vehicle's earned me around $150,000 in 2.5 years. My total expenditures, everything I've had to pay for on that vehicle, with the battery included, is about $15,000. I've had to replace my screen because I dropped my iPhone without its case on it, cracked it, boom, there's $1,400. I replaced my charging cover because around, what was it, about 100,000 kilometers, it failed to open properly. So Tesla service came to my house, fixed that in 15 minutes, but it was about $250. So between that and the screen and my upper control arms in the front that were right around $200 as well, when I factor all that in with the replacement of the battery, and I'm actually having them check my rear suspension, got a little popping sound. We think it's the axles just need to be pulled out, greased, tightened, and torqued down. Just, comes with use, minor things. All of that added together, about $15,000 as compared to the vehicle having earned me $150,000. That means that literally all of my expense. Whoa, wait, hang on. Nope, I gotta be honest that, tires. We need to factor in tires as well. 2 sets of Michelins. 2 sets of BF Goodrich. Okay, let's just, for simple math's sake, we'll say about $6,000 in tires. So, $21,000. So if we include all of the operational maintenance, including tires, the battery, all of that, it comes out to about $21,000. So 14% of what the vehicle's earned me. Only 14% goes to covering all of that. And now I actually know I have a number for the price of what a battery will cost me in the future when it does come up again, and I'll be ready for it even more so this time, because I expected it to be closer to 7,000 or 8,000. I was not really expecting it to be higher, but you got to remember that things are different now because of supply chain and world conflict, inflation, recession, all this crap going on. That, yeah, of course, the battery is going to be more expensive. But all that is to say that aside from the battery, Mew is great. It was running great. I just couldn't charge anymore. So when that's swapped and we're back on the road, we're going to be kicking butt again, getting all the content, customer reactions, robo reports. Hopefully we've got 10.69.3 at that point. It's kind of funny that I said I'd have all this 2.4 content and then Mew dies. Awesome. So yeah, that's not going to be the case anymore. But I really appreciate everybody's support and best wishes and understanding about the situation. And I hope you appreciate this little disclaimer or announcement for the channel about what's going on. I am going to have video out Wednesday and Friday is the planned schedule for the 2 comparison videos to kind of keep a flow going, since this is taking the place of the Monday RoboTaxi report. And I'm still hoping to do something while I'm in Nevada that I can turn into content as well, something I've wanted to do for a while, but I've not had the chance to do it since it's out there, and some other areas in Arizona too, but just, there's a distance, and usually I'm, so focused on work. But anyway, I don't want to take any more of your time. Thank you so much for everything. If you have any questions or anything didn't make sense, leave it down in the comments. Continue to like, subscribe, and share this all over the place. And I really appreciate and love you guys and all the support. And I will catch you all in the next video. Take care.